Good evening. I'm Jonathan Higgins.
And I'm Rich Carlson.
I'm Lindsay Blanton.
And we are the Scanner Guys tonight. Another interview for this this show. This will be our third interview that we've had. This is really exciting to have Lindsay with us. Everybody knows him from Radio Reference and Broadcastify, so we're really excited about tonight's show. Actually, you know what, Rich? We'll just jump right into it, I think.
Go for it.
So, Lindsay, what got you into this hobby?
Well, thanks, Jonathan. Glad to be here. Hope everybody's enjoying your all's day. And Rich and Jonathan, thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you.
How I got started? Well, back when I was probably about 8 or 9 years old, my grandmother in Charlottesville, Virginia, had a little crystal scanner on her desk in the kitchen, and it was always paging out fire calls for the Charlottesville Police Department, and I was fascinated by it. And so, it kind of started from there. I ultimately, when I was a teenager, I received my first scanner as a Christmas present. Pretty surprised. I mean, I didn't think my parents would get me one. I just asked for one, and I was living in New Orleans, Louisiana at the time. And so when I was a young teenager, I grew up listening to the New Orleans Police Department during all the fun stuff there in Louisiana, and purchased my first police call to learn how to program the scanner. And then it went from there. I moved from New Orleans to Virginia Beach, which is a huge military area. And so then I grew from listening to just police and fire departments to military and the Navy and the Air Force and all that in the area. And it grew from there. So that's how I got started.
It seems like, Rich, it's a common trend with a lot of people that we've talked to. We've all basically started when we were kids.
Had got a scanner for Christmas or my birthday or what have you, and that's the parents start you off on those type of things.
And then they regret it, because then you've got the handheld or the portable, and you want the other the desktop model, and then it's like, no, what did I get these kids into?
Yeah, it goes from something cool to an obsession, and then you got to have more and more. Oh, yeah, you want to put a 30-foot tall antenna on the roof? Yeah, okay, yeah. So did you have a particular scanner that was your favorite, or any particular one that kind of like, that's the one I got to have? Or
I do, actually. There's a good story behind that. When I lived in Virginia Beach, the city of Virginia Beach and Norfolk and the entire Hampton Roads area had just transitioned to an 800 megahertz set of systems, which was relatively new at the time. This was back in 1989, 1990. Mm-hmm. And so my first scanner was a 20-channel Radio Shack scanner that only covered up to 512 megahertz. And so I couldn't listen to any 800 megahertz systems. So the only thing I could listen to for the first year I lived in Virginia Beach was just the pagers for each of the fire departments. That's all I had. And so my dream at the time was a Radio Shack Pro 2004, which was one of the one with the yellow and blue keypad. And I wanted that scanner. I asked for it every year for my birthday and for Christmas, and I never got it. I mean, it was $399 then. Back in 1989 and 1990. And so, I mean, it was just too expensive for my parents and young family growing up in a military family. And so, when I turned 16, I got a job at McDonald's in Virginia Beach, and I worked there my entire high school career. And I can remember I went to Radio Shack. By then, the Pro 2004 had been replaced with the 2005, and then the Pro 2006, which I consider my favorite scanner, the Pro 2006. I think it's the best scanner that was ever made.
I loved the 2006. I had a Chevy Celebrity at the time, and it fit perfectly between the ashtray or coin holder and the glove box. And I bought one of those. This is perfect. It even matched the color.
I mean, it's just a great scanner. And so I went to my local Radio Shack while I was, earning $3.35 an hour flipping hamburgers at Radio Shack, McDonald's. And I put the Pro 2006 on layaway. I actually put it on layaway.
Yeah.
And so I went in there faithfully with every paycheck for 2 months and put some money down on that scanner. And I still remember the day that I had enough to take receipt. The store manager knew it, and he was real excited for me, and it was a big deal. And I have that scanner. It sits right up here on my shelf. It's not used anymore, but fantastic radio. And then, you know what, the next thing that happened with that scanner is, you remember that Mr. Bill Cheek wrote an entire book dedicated to modifying that scanner, and I did every one of the modifications. I put the little LEDs for the S meter in there. And
did you have the expanded memory with the dip switches? Yeah,
or I had that. You clip a couple. I mean, that was the era of clipping diodes to enable new features for your scanners. So I still keep that scanner. It's a fabulous scanner. My first scanner, the Pro 2020, the 20-channel scanner, ended up in that McDonald's back in the grill area monitoring the drive-through so that everybody back there could hear as orders came in. And I went by that McDonald's maybe, I want to say 10 or 15 years later, back like in 2004 or something, and it was still there. So,
well, my very first scanner was a Regency 8-channel VHF. It was a TMR 8, I think it was. And I had that thing. My dad got that for me when I was like 10 or 11, and I had that thing forever. And then when I became a dispatcher, we had a lightning strike and we lost the VHF car-to-car channel. And we had always had a PA speaker in the basement of the police station so they can listen to it. And that scanner became the receiver for that thing. And it was probably there until they lost that channel.
Right. Yep.
So, on the 2004, did you ever get a 2004?
I did. I bought one aftermarket many years later, because it was I thought it was neat to own one. I think I bought it at a pawn shop for $50 or something. But, that was one where you could expand the channels and, all that stuff with a diode clip. So, I remember.
Oh, yeah. They got the little sticker that goes over the overlay for the keypad, so the numbers on the banks matched.
Yep. That's it.
So cool. And there was a guy down in Florida who would replace the displays because they always would go dim.
Yep.
So, good.
It's so crazy, I mean, that we all got into this hobby, when we were kids, pretty much. You mentioned that you like to monitor police and fire, and then some of the military stuff. Do you get to monitor now? And then what do you typically listen to when you do have time to be able to listen to your scanners?
Yeah, my listening habits have, evolved pretty considerably over the years. I love to just listen to my local public safety agencies. I really I like listening to the military and other, there's just a lot of, I like air traffic control. Some of the things I really focus on are some of the really hard to monitor type stuff like satellites and, stuff like that. I'm really varied. I mean, I like to float around from thing to thing, and, I'll get, some new piece of software will come out, or there'll be a new, new technique for monitoring something, and that'll be the flavor of the month for me. So I really like to just kind of flip around and dabble in a lot of different stuff. I have I don't have any radios other than for show on these shelves. Everything that I have is installed in a rack in a closet, and I run everything from a computer. But I do a lot of HF radio listening, utility listening. When I was a teenager, the second radio that I got was an R390 Collins receiver, which is a huge tube military receiver built in the 60s and 50s. And I used to listen to the U.S. Customs Service chasing drug smugglers in the Caribbean, which was exciting stuff, over HF. So I used to love doing that. I'm really varied. I really go across the board. I don't listen as much as I used to, just because, believe it or not, running the business of Radio Reference and Broadcastify takes up a lot more of my time. So I'll usually have radios on, or whatnot. But I'm usually, I mean, it's a big business. A lot of people don't realize how much time and effort it takes. And so I wish I had more time to do a lot of monitoring. I do. I mean, I can sit and, work in the office and listen to radios, but,
Well, now that you bring that up, you want to tell us how that part of it got started, how you went from a hobby to a business?
Yeah. I mean, I started my career after college in the information technology world. I worked for, a number of different banks, and then I ended up going to work for IBM as an engineer for many years, doing systems management work as an SE. So I traveled a lot. But, probably around 1998, I noticed, with the advent of these trunk radio systems that came aboard, it used to be that we would, I mean, both of you remember the way that we programmed a police scanner, and the way that we got the information was we either went to our local Radio Shack and we bought a book called Police Call once a year. It was released once a year. And it came in 7 volumes for each different area of the country, in different regions. Or we went to the local library and pulled out microfiche of FCC licenses. That was the only way you could look up FCC licenses. And so I said, but then we had these trunk radio systems, which are big, computer controlled, complex systems with lots of talk groups, where you could take 5 channels and turn that into 1,000 talk groups of different stuff. And there really wasn't a good way to track all that. And so I was living in the Dallas-Fort Worth area at the time, which had a ton of trunk radio systems. And, we just at that time started getting trunk trackers. Remember how, it took years for us to be able to track those systems with a commercial scanner, and the amount of data that needed to be tracked and inputted into those scanners, and how often it changed, and how often people identified that data necessitated us to kind of get that online. And so I started creating static web pages of the different trunk systems in the DFW metro area. But I quickly realized that it's a big pain in the butt to manage pages of data when people are sending you data. It started to become a pretty popular website. And so I said, it'd be really cool if I should use a database and then write a front end to a database. And then when I do that, I could also create a system that instead of people emailing me tables of data, they could send it to me in like a ticketing system. And that way we could track that, who sent us the data, and then we could put it in the database, and then I could recruit people to help me do that. And so then I went and started trunkradio.net, which was the first online catalog of trunk radio information.
Yeah, I remember it well. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we actually started trunkradio.net as focusing on the southeast corner of the United States. But it took off. And so we quickly pivoted to covering the entire country. And then the biggest change we made in the business was incorporating it as radioreference.com and getting into conventional data. And that was it. And so it took off from there. And, now we have over 80 plus administrators who all take in those tickets of data. And we have hundreds of submissions from the community out there that come into our team, and they and that's how we manage all that data now. So,
well, it has turned out to be the Bible of the scanner, the scanner listener's Bible, and kudos to you for all the work that you put into that, because where would the scanners be without that resource?
Yeah, I mean, certainly. Right. I mean, in between Rich and I, we're on there almost every day.
Yeah. All day.
All day,
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time on the. Well, you were making jokes at me last night when we talked to the phone. Oh, you were on the radio reference. What was it? Midnight. The other night.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of folks. We have 1.2 million registered members. You know, we have tens of thousands of people that visit just Radio Reference on a daily basis. So I mean, it's definitely extremely busy. And you know, that database, I mean, it's hard to imagine that we came from a time when we would buy a book once a year. That database has changed hundreds of times a day, probably. So you know, there's a lot of good. You know, I'm really excited about how it came along, and I was just kind of a lucky person, and I was in the right place at the right time to come up with a database management solution to kind of send it on its way. So
yeah. Well, it's worked out very, very well. And I can remember, you know, driving around and myself and some friends. I mean, we had great big, huge notebooks full of printed material. And we would share them. We'd get together for lunch and share all this information, and you know, we scribbling notes. And now, you know, it's all done on the phone. You know?
I mean, literally, we have a frequency guide that's accessible from any device that can get on the internet. I mean, I found myself, you know, when I was in Altoona last week, you know, verifying frequency. You know, I'm pulling up on my phone. You know, I mean, I have. You know, you think of those 7 directories are now all in one website. You know, no carrying stacks of books.
And it's all free too.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, that's it. You want to explain the different membership levels at Radio Reference, because that's a question we get all the time. People saying, "Well, why do I have to pay to view the database?" Well, you don't.
Right. Yeah. You know, it's important. It's always been important to me as the leader of the company that, you know, all of that data has been sent to us from tens of thousands of people all over the world. And so we always want to make it free. And then that's never going to change. It's always freely available. Anybody can view the data for free. But we certainly are a business as well. We have operating costs. And so we do some advertising on the site. And we add premium, we add premium features around all that data so that you can download it directly into your radio, or you can download specialized reports for advanced users. And so all of those things cost $15 per 6 months. That's been the same subscription price we've had since inception. But, you know, that previously we just took donations. So we've, you know, it's pretty neat that we've been able to keep our pricing at that level. I think it's a steal, to be honest with you, with all the features and whatnot you get. Basically, it's, you know, $15 for half a year or $30 for a whole year. So, I mean, you know, that's but, you know, we've always made the conscious choice that we would never lock down the data. And it's always freely available. You don't even have to register for the site. So, you know, and us doing that actually gives us a really good community. So that, you know, folks that, you know, may just need to drive by and take a look at some data, and we send them on their way. Hopefully we provided a good service to them.
So with the Radio Reference, it's not just the database though, too. You've got the forums, which are huge.
Yeah, an amazing online community. It's the largest radio communications online community. It's extremely active. You know, we have sections on everything from military monitoring to your local area monitoring to more specialized stuff like satellite and digital signals and things like that. So it really is kind of a go-to spot for, you know, kind of talking about, you know, different locations. And since, you know, our administration team gets all kinds of requests every day from folks wanting us to help them, you know, figure out how to program their scanners and all that. And, you know, every area is different. And so that's why we have a community, so that, you know, you can go there and find somebody local to you that can help you with, you know, each of the individual programming situations and things like that our customers and community members need. So.
Yeah, it's awesome. If you can't find it there, it probably can't be found. So,
never mind the wiki section of the site too is like the encyclopedia, you know, for scanner users. I mean, that's handy as well.
Yeah.
Our
wiki, buddy from Indianapolis would be mad if we didn't mention the wiki.
That's right. Yeah, the wiki is a online editable encyclopedia of radio communications reference data, not really the stuff you'd program your scanner with, but more, information about different equipment and, different modulations and all that stuff. And anybody in the community can help contribute and edit that. So,
yeah, if it doesn't fit in the database, it'll fit in the wiki.
That's right. So our database is designed to be a very structured set of data. And so we have a lot of rules and regulations about what we put in that data, or what data we put in that database, how we manage it, how we present it to the users. And that doesn't always meet up with, a lot of more unstructured data that folks might want to track. So we really want to try to provide both of those environments for folks to do that with.
Okay.
Yes. So we'll go back to scanners again. So you got into this hobby because of parents and so on. Have you passed this down to anybody in your family as of yet?
Yeah, I haven't. My son, who is 14, he's big into video games and whatnot, and he's really great on the computer, but they're not into radios. My daughter, obviously, she'd rather be out hanging out with her friends and all that. So the answer is no.
The answer is no.
Yeah. Well, not all people are as enlightened as us.
Yeah,
that's right. So. But that's okay.
You got any good stories that you can tell us about our late great friend Paul?
Paul,
anything that you could share?
You could share in this forum.
It's very interesting. I spent a lot of time with Paul. What an amazing visionary for the radio communications industry and the scanner industry. He had some amazing ideas. He was the one that came up with a lot of the ideas of marrying the radio reference database with a radio. A lot of what you saw with Home Patrol and other scanners came from him. A lot of the innovations. I spent many a day in the Dallas area in United's headquarters, whiteboarding out solutions for how we were going to make that happen and how we were going to license it and how we were going to structure a lot of. And he was just an amazing guy, and I was really sad to see him pass away before. I want to say maybe a few months before that, I had an opportunity to go up to Dallas and see him and go out to lunch with him. He had just gotten out of the hospital, and he's like, "Let's go get some Mexican food." So, we went up to my old stomping grounds in Las Colinas, which is where I lived in the DFW area, and had big spicy Mexican food. And I kind of was like, "Man, you sure you're okay doing this?" And he's like, "Oh, I've been dying to do this." So, but
yeah.
Paul, just an amazing guy, and he did a lot of really neat work at Uniden, and I miss him. So
yeah, we all do. He was a great guy. That I had the pleasure of meeting him several times and working on with other stuff, and you can't ask for a better guy when it comes to that kind of stuff. So, and you're right, he was a real visionary.
Yeah,
he was.
Anything coming down the pike that you can share with us, or obviously there's stuff that we can't talk about, and I'm sure, but is there anything that you can tell us about that's coming down the pike that we might be interested in?
I don't know anything that I can talk about in the industry that's coming that I can share, but I do know that we do have some big changes coming to the whole radio reference Broadcastify platform over the next 6 months. At the beginning of the year, we're gonna finalize and release a brand new business that I'm gonna call the third leg of a tripod for that's gonna focus on something really, really impressive that I think everybody's gonna be pretty impressed with and pretty excited about. So, we have all the radio communication stuff on the radio reference side, and we have Broadcastify, which is our online media company where you can listen to radios online. And just to talk a little bit about that, you probably noticed our Broadcastify calls implementation, which actually sucks up all calls for different radio systems. And that has absolutely exploded in popularity. We've gone from releasing that in beta back in March to having over 220 systems online. And this afternoon, we were receiving about 1,800 calls a minute, which if you divide that by 60, that tells you how much traffic we're bringing in. It's a really neat architecture. You're going to see a lot of changes around that. But the third component that you're going to see come out for radio reference and Broadcastify, that's going to be a huge complement to the business, is going to be around alerting and incident management. And I'm really excited about what we have coming there. It's going to be really cool.
Cool.
It's going to revolutionize that industry. And so I'm pretty excited about it. It's a project that we've been working on for a while. And I would estimate that when we get to the first quarter of next year, you'll see more information about that. So very excited about that. That'll be the third leg of my vision for this business. So I'm super excited about it.
No, I'm looking forward to that. And all of this is running on a Mac Mini, right?
No, it's not.
With a great big hard drive.
Rich, that's a great question. A lot of people ask me, is it on a server at your house? Or, how much bandwidth are you guys using? And you're running it in the cloud? Well, who's your cloud provider? Well, I can walk everybody kind of through a little bit of the architecture and how it's set up. First, I think you'll be shocked that radio reference and Broadcastify probably at any given moment comprises of about 20 different servers. So it's it's a very highly complex business that doesn't see a predictable traffic pattern. Radio reference sort of does. I can really predict out the traffic for radio reference pretty well, but Broadcastify could go, from having 30,000 listeners to 200,000 listeners in an hour. And so we have to have a pretty complex infrastructure. So all of our, we have what we call bare metal servers, which are servers that I actually lease with some providers for some of our audio stuff. We have the primary website and all the database runs in Amazon's Amazon Web Services cloud. We have a lot of in-depth storage that we use on Google's cloud platform. We consume about 500 terabytes of storage for Broadcastify's archives, and that's on Google's cloud. We use Oracle's cloud for some specialized audio components. So it's all over the map. We use a ton of different servers and technologies. For all the developers out there, we do PHP and Apache and MySQL, and we use serverless technologies, and we use container technologies and Node.js, and just a ton of different stuff out there. It's a very, very complex business, and we probably spend about $10,000 to $12,000 a month on servers and bandwidth and hosted service provider technologies and things like that. So it's, we got a lot going on. It's not just,
Wow.
It's a big business.
Obviously, you've got the background for that. So
I do.
Any Joe off the street isn't going to be able to come up with that. So not only do you have to have the idea of what you want to do, now you got to figure out how to do the darn thing.
That's right. You got to put it all together. I use a lot of consultants and stuff, but all the development work and support. Like if you submit a request to have your password changed or something, I'm the one that does it. So, but I also spend an amazing amount of time doing financials and business management and contract management and royalty management and architecture and design. All the coding and everything I've done. So, I'm a busy guy without a doubt.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an amazing it's an amazing amount of work and involvement, and thankfully, like I say, you got somebody who knows what they're doing that's doing it, because it wouldn't be where it is if you didn't have the ability to do it and the ability to contact the people who can compliment you on that. So
That's right.
Jonathan?
What are the current scanners that you're using now? I know that you have them rack mounted in a closet. What are some of the scanners that you're using right now in this day?
So my everyday listening scanners consist of an SDS 200 in a rack with and that focuses on all public safety in the area. And then I use a GRE, an older GRE 500 for military monitoring. And then I have a ton of SDRs, software-defined receivers. I have a WIN radio 39 DDC Excelsior, which is my primary general coverage receiver. I have an R9500 Icon, which is it's the big rack mount one with the LCD display. I have a ICOM 8600 for HF listening. I have a ton of different radios that cover different tactical things, for different public safety components. But for the most part, it just comes down to an SDS 200 and a GRE 500. But I probably have about 20 radios. I don't have 30 radios like Rich back there, but I probably have about 20 of them.
You know what?
But you notice the ones that
I
are
don't
on the
either.
desk are the ones that I use all the time. I do kind of the same thing you do with your closet radios. Most of those are just they're just absorbing hits and data and storing it on the computer. So
I've moved primarily to SDR, software defined receivers, where I have computers that are just ingesting everything, and then I can process and choose what I want to listen to based on that. So
now you use a Mac and Windows, obviously, right? For you kind of do both.
I do. So I have a Mac Pro on my desktop here, the cheese grater with the XDR monitor and 3 4K monitors. So that's what's right here in front of me. And so I use that. I do a lot of financial management from that as well, stock trading and things like that, because I manage my own finances. And then off to the side, I have an industrial workbench over here that I use to put together different SDR deployments for some of our Broadcastify stuff. And I do a lot of research and development around SDRs and things like that. So, that's what I use for a computer. So,
cool. Yeah, I'm a Mac person. Jonathan's a Mac guy, and
I mean, we're all operating on Mac. That's for sure.
Yep.
And one of the biggest questions we get is people trying to find out how to run Sentinel on their Mac, and we get
you got to use parallel,
but you can't do it directly.
Right.
Yeah. So if you still have any say at Uniden, tell them to make a version of Sentinel for the Mac.
I love it. Well, we have so many talented software developers out there right now. I'm surprised that nobody's stepped up and done it. I mean, for the Broadcastify calls platform, we put out incentives for that, and we had developers step up immediately. And, that's why we've been so successful in getting that platform off the ground. And, I'm a firm believer that that's really that component right there is going to revolutionize as we roll that out further, what we're doing for this hobby. So I'm excited about that. So.
I was pretty excited when Broadcastify actually came out with its own app for monitoring the streams. I mean, that was awesome, because you have so many different ones out there, and it seemed like the Broadcastify app was, because that's where originally all the broadcasts were originating from. Why not Broadcastify? And I have that on my phone. So if I'm not within listening range, I'm going to the Broadcastify app.
Yeah.
Well,
and it's a lot easier to use some of the other apps out there too. So
yeah, it's a good little app. I mean, we made the conscious decision early on with Broadcastify and the apps that we really wanted to develop a platform and open that up for developers. And it's pretty neat because those developers, the Broadcastify ecosystem is earning and generating hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue for the development community, and it's really neat. They share that revenue with Broadcastify, but it's neat because we've made a lot of developers successful out there, and it's really neat to see that. So I'm very much a spread the wealth kind of a guy. I love to see people succeeding out there. Broadcastify and Radio Reference doesn't need to own it all. Mm-hmm. And with our new project that we're going to be working on next year, you're going to see that same thing. I mean, there's an ecosystem here for all of us to participate in, and so I'm excited about it. So,
cool. Do you do a lot of scanning away from the house? Handhelds or in the car and stuff, or is it mostly?
In my car, I have an SDS 1000 or 100 in my car that I use. Mm-hmm. I wept for joy when Paul called me and told me a few years ago that they had released ProVoice support. I live in an area that uses Maycoms or ProVoice solutions.
GE, then.
Yeah, and so I was super excited about that. So I have an SDS 100 in the car, and that's really it. I've got the SDS 100 also has a specialized interface for a Bluetooth GPS. So when I go on road trips, I can use it. But yeah, that's about it. I mean, my car doesn't lend itself to lots of radios in it. It's a one radio car. So.
Yeah, it's a family vehicle, not a radio vehicle.
It's the same thing with me. I only have one. Apparently you and I are very much alike, and Rich is extreme.
I only have 3 radios in my car.
I have one radio in my car.
My car just doesn't have the room for it. So.
Yeah. Well, I actually bought a car specifically because it fit my radios.
Right.
Actually, the whole story that we've shared is Rich's wife, believe it or not, is the brainchild behind all of this. The rack was his wife's idea. The vehicle, they went to a car show, and she said, "Look at the space here. You could put your radios."
And on the way home from the auto show, we stopped at the dealer, and sure enough,
right.
Yeah. And then the rack, she got mad because she saw all the wires laying around, and she didn't like seeing the wires. So she saw one of those on Amazon. She said, "You ought to put your radios in that." I'm like, yeah. And I often thought about putting a false wall back here in the office and then putting all the radios in the back, kind of like what you've done. And then that way you wouldn't see anything up here. Just do everything on, Arc Pro or ProScan or, whatever SDR program I'll be using.
Right.
So,
yep.
Yeah. But she hasn't gone that far yet. So,
yeah. Who else was chomping at the bit for ProVoice was Rich Barnett. Because he wanted to monitor the MBTA in Boston. So I remember, I'm sure you were beta testing it with Paul.
I wasn't. I was not a beta tester.
So
it's amazing. They hid it from me. I was super excited about it. I mean, I think he contacted me maybe a month before release or something, and I couldn't believe it. It's like I won the lottery or something. So it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, what happened was
he's gonna love this.
What happened is Rich told me in the office, "Oh, we got to try this. We got new firmware. We got to try it." I'm like, "Okay, what's the firmware?" And he says, "Oh, it's for ProVoice. All right, I want you to program the MBTA system and put this firmware in for me." So he grabbed a 536. He said, here's a 536. Put the firmware in, program the T system, and make sure it works. I'm going to take it home. So I'm like, all right. And then of course, the firmware was wide open. So of course I put it in my radio at home. A couple of different radios. I wanted to monitor the MBTA as well. So why not?
Right.
Yeah.
The simple reality with the scanner manufacturers is they, I don't know what it is, but all of them each think that I favor one scanner manufacturer over the other. And so they don't share anything with me. I don't know why if they're afraid that I'm going to release something or whatever. But anyway, I'm usually well,
you don't own stock in Universal, do you?
I'm sorry?
You don't own stock in Universal, do you?
Universal? Well. But
you know the story about that, right?
I don't. It went over my head.
So. Universal, I guess we can mention this.
It's well known, yeah.
Universal Radio prematurely announced a radio that wasn't announced by Uniden. By accident.
I do remember. I remember that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the funny thing, when we had Rich and I were part of the beta testing group for the 100, we kept it such a secret that Rich Barnett didn't even know we had them.
Right.
Yeah.
So he ended up finding out, and I said, I've had this for months. And he's like, why didn't you tell me? I said, I'm sworn to secrecy. I can't tell anybody.
He couldn't even bring it to work,
Yeah. Well, I'm afraid. Well, the thing is with Rich, if he didn't have one, he would say, can I borrow your sample? I'm like, and I won't see it for a month.
Right.
So that was the other reason why I kept it quiet, because I wanted to hold on to my radio.
I mean,
I'll tell you what.
I've had beta products, and I've definitely had, early release components and things like that. So I have participated, but there have been some times when I've seen some things come out just when everybody else did. So,
yeah,
it's crazy. You being, the epicenter of, the whole entire hobby at this point, for the database and everything. It's crazy. And it seems like you've had the 100 and 200. Right now, those are probably definitely Rich and I's probably favorite radios at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I tell you what, I have a much better appreciation for the Home Patrol now than when it first came out when I was beta testing. I hated it when we were beta testing it, and now I love it.
Well, the thing was, is we shared in previous shows, is I was working at Scanner Master when the Home Patrol came out, so most of all the beta testers were experts with the Home Patrol, that were on the beta testing team, and they're like, "What the hell is this? This is restricted for us." And when I was on the group, I said, "Oh my God, this is the answer to a lot of our customers that are not technically savvy." So, I beta tested it from their approach. I'm new to the hobby. I don't know a lot about the scanner. And then slowly the guys kind of taken on in the group. And then Paul kind of said, "Guys, you're going by this the wrong direction. You got to think of this as the other way around." And then it started to make sense.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was when I grabbed a guy from work and I said, "Here, take this home for a couple nights and play with it and let me know what you think. And don't tell anybody about it, And he said, "This is the greatest thing in the world. I always wanted to listen, but I couldn't figure it out." And it's like, wow, that's cool. So
yeah, it's a great radio. I love it, and so I was really excited to see it, as it came out. So
yeah. Well, let's talk about a little bit about the big elephant in the room, encryption, and how all that plays into this. There's always the people who say that, Broadcastify, and maybe to a lesser extent, Radio Reference, encourages agencies to go encryption. How do you want to, how do you address that type of question?
Well, some of them are right. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's a lot easier to listen to scanners online for somebody that can just pick up a phone and download an app. And I think the simple reality is that's where the industry's gone. That's where technology has taken us. Media streaming in general is is first and foremost with most different mediums. And, we've seen agencies move to encryption since encryption was made available back in the 80s. And we've seen agencies that change over. Our position on it is we hope to see public safety agencies keep their general routine dispatch in the clear. We think it serves a great public purpose. We don't discount or deny the fact that Broadcastify has probably caused some agencies to move to encryption. It's unfortunate. We have a lot of agencies that broadcast on Broadcastify, so there's two different two different sides to the story. I deal with agencies all the time who contact us and want to know how they can get their departments online, and so it is what it is. We do have a lot of folks that say, you guys are destroying the hobby, and I would argue that we've actually Broadcastify has probably brought the scanner hobby to more people in the country than ever before. I mean, scanners are part of our daily lives now. I mean, they're always on the news. We have millions of people that listen to scanners now from their phones, and it's probably directed a lot of business to retailers for folks that want to get involved in the hobby a little bit more. So, I mean, it's an issue. We have a lot of our more vocal folks out there who tell us you need to shut down Broadcastify immediately. But hey, folks, the simple reality is that if Radio Reference didn't bring it to market, then somebody else would. The technology's out there. It's where we are today. So,
and a lot of these agencies may have been going encryption eventually anyway. Yeah,
they always have. We have some agencies that reverse that decision. So there's no general overall huge rush to get to encryption that we can blame on Broadcastify. There are very, very few instances or cases where Broadcastify has directly contributed to an officer safety problem or a criminal being able to get away with something or use our services to directly evade law enforcement. I'm sure somebody will point me to a news article that says that such and such in this city was arrested and they found that he was listening to Broadcastify on his scanner or on his phone. And I say, but the guy was arrested. I mean, our feeds are delayed by 30 seconds to 2 minutes on average, which is an eternity in law enforcement. So we very tightly control what we allow our broadcasters to broadcast, and so I feel pretty good about it. And I hate to see a large agency move to encryption and encrypt everything, but that's how they do it. And if they want to, that's on them. But our position has always been that we'd like to see general routine dispatch in the clear, and certainly more sensitive communication should be encrypted. So that's our official position.
And that's the way it should be.
And from what I've seen, working for Scanner Master for over a decade, a lot of younger people have gotten involved in the scanner hobby because of Broadcastify. They'll get hooked on Broadcastify, and then the next thing, they want more. They want to be able to listen to other channels that are not available on Broadcastify, or be able to listen to an area that there's not a feed yet on Broadcastify, or they just want pure control over what they're monitoring. So let's say, so they call Scanner Master and say, I'm listening to this feed on Broadcastify. I would really love a scanner. What do I need? And it's kind of brought, for a vast majority, our demographic for our customers is older. And it's brought some of the younger people into the fold because they got exposed to listening to a scanner online, and then they just want more. They want to be able to hear it, control it, listen to other areas. So that's how a lot of people at this day and age have gotten involved in the hobby. So thanks to Broadcastify and Radio Reference, I mean, it's brought a new group or new demographic of scanner enthusiasts.
Yeah, we get people totally call every day. Yeah, they heard it on Broadcastify, and they want to be able to do it themselves. So, and the other thing too is we get people who, before I retired, when I was still working for the police department, guys who complain that it's on Broadcastify, but yet you walk in and they're listening to Broadcastify themselves.
That's right.
Yeah, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, right?
Law enforcement officers and firefighters and EMS personnel and city officials are all huge users of Broadcastify. The federal government's a huge user. You name it. So, I mean, it's part of our daily lives now in the United States. I mean, it's, I look at the statistics. We probably see about 6 or 7, million unique people that listen and visit Broadcastify on a monthly basis. So, I mean, there's very few people out there with a cell phone that don't have a scanner app on their phone. So
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
I mean, it's pretty amazing, whenever I see breaking news that's going on in some sort of region, I take a look at, Radio Reference or Broadcastify. Okay, the feed must be blowing up, because everybody's going there to listen to what's going on. And I remember the big events like the marathon bombing in Boston, and it was people just flocking, just wanting to be able to hear what's going on, and it was just amazing the amount of traffic. It's just, like whenever there's a breaking news item, I love to just go to the website and say, all right, what feed has got the alert and how many people are listening to that feed, and it just skyrockets.
Yep.
Yeah. There was something I was going to ask, and it just went.
So I've seen multiple times, the major news networks will play audio and then they'll credit Broadcastify. Do they contact you, or they just automatically credit you?
Yeah, so we have agreements with all of the major news networks. They automatically do that. They're free to put that as long as they attribute where they got it from. So that's how it works.
That's cool. I was wondering.
All the news, every news station in the country has a Broadcastify account. So
that's cool. I was wondering. Did they contact you? Because I remember I've posted a couple of things. I remember there was, I also like rail fanning and trains, and there was one locomotive that was blowing up on the way to work. They had a equipment problem, and it was flames coming out of the top of the locomotive. So, I was going to work into Scanner Master, and then I heard the fire department responding to the train station. So I took a little detour that morning, recorded a little video of what was going on, and then I had all the major television stations in Boston sending me messages. Can we use this? Can we use this?
Right.
So I said, yep, just as long as you give me credit, that's all that matters.
All the news desks are, they already know how to get. They know how to use our archives. They know how to use the feeds. They already have all the logos and everything. So it's not a problem for them.
And it's good advertising for you.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we don't ask for any royalties or anything like that. So.
Yep. No, you wash their back, they'll wash yours.
Yeah,
that's right.
Scratch your back. Scratch your back. I got to get my idioms going here.
Oh man.
So, well, we had a couple quick questions from some of our viewers. Joe asks, has your collaboration with Uniden changed since Paul passed away?
Yeah, that's a good question. I have not heard from, any of the folks at Uniden and who's taken over for Paul. I know that there was a transition plan put in place, but the answer is no. I don't have any. I haven't had any discussions with Uniden since his passing. So,
yeah. Well, I hope that they get that figured out. I mean, you can't replace somebody like Paul. You can only succeed him. So,
right. I'm sure they will. I mean, it's, they've got a smart management team over there, and I've sat down and met the CEO of Uniden America and spent some time with him. So I'm confident that they'll have that back on track, and innovation will continue. So.
Art asks if Radio Reference ever put out the dedicated app for the iPhone. So there is a Broadcastify app directly on the iOS platform, right?
There is. I wrote it myself. It's really not. It's just a bare bones app. Radio Reference does not have a standalone app. We're working on a new mobile website for Radio Reference to provide a lot more features and functionality for mobile users, but not at this time. So,
whenever I go out and I'm doing something like that, I bring the iPad because it's just too small to, because I'm doing this on the phone.
We're gonna completely rewrite our database here in the fourth quarter to be much more usable on mobile and tablet devices. It's pretty dated. Any of you who are web developers, or any of you that use the site, it's primarily designed for desktops, and we're going to change that. We're going to really update that and get it up to speed in the next few months. So
cool. Jonathan?
Let's see here. So Rich doesn't have any antennas outside of his home because of his HOA.
Yeah.
Now I'm wondering, are you dealing with any HOA restrictions where you're at?
So I live in a neighborhood. Each of our lot sizes are about an acre apiece. My neighborhood does have HOA restrictions around that, but I do have antennas on my roof, and it's not a problem. So,
nice. Yeah, that's cool, because that's the big thing. A lot of people are living in these HOAs, and that's the thing. I mean, Rich is you have an antenna farm in your attic. Is that right?
Well, thankfully, I've got a huge attic. So, and I've got a friend of mine who, I was a couple of years ago, and I was having some health issues. I was nowhere near as limber as I would need to be to bounce around in the attic. So I had a friend of mine come out, and he helped me put a whole boatload of antennas up in the attic. And nowadays, I can get up there. Things are a little bit. I'm a little more flexible now than I used to be. Of course, 100 pounds lighter would help, but I would. That's why we were looking at a couple other places, because I would love to put a tower out there.
Right.
So,
I mean, I built my home here from scratch, and I had it pre-wired with 4 runs of coax to the roof, and my antennas. I have a lot of trees and whatnot on my lot and my property, so and I live in a neighborhood where the neighbors typically don't bother each other and whatnot, so it's not too big of a concern for me. I have a lot of leeway. I mean, I could make a pretty compelling argument that it's a TV antenna for over-the-air broadcast, which is which it could be. I mean, there's just, so it's not an issue for me right now. I have one antenna on the roof, and then I have a Yagi that sits on a pole on the side, and a weather station. I know my neighbor sees them, but I mean, I'd be like, bring it on, I mean, so.
Yeah. Well, the way to get that is to make sure you invite them to the next barbecue.
Yeah.
I've got a standing offer for a pool party in my neighborhood, so I never get complaints about stuff. So, so like I said, I've been thinking about doing the same thing, building a house. And one of the things I've already got a design set up, and I would pre-run the coaxes and then just cap them off, and that way I can add a couple of, got to have a couple spare coaxes too for future.
You can't have enough of them. You could put 20 of them in and you'll need 24. So,
yeah. Well, I've only got 27 going up my my wall right now, and there are 4 of them are spares. So
Right.
Let's see if there's any other questions here. I don't see any others. A lot of people are saying thanks for all you do for the hobby, and we amplify that. We really appreciate everything that you've done and your team has done. And it isn't just you. I mean, you've got database administrators, which both Jonathan and I are that. You got
Right.
forum moderators, which I do a little bit of that, but there are guys who spend hours every day doing moderation and database work, and so it's not just you; it's the whole team.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, Rich, Jonathan, that's an excellent point, and thanks for bringing that up, because there's a ton of work that goes on the radio reference platform that's just not me. Like I mentioned earlier, our database administration team volunteers tons of hours and time to manage that database and to take in all those submissions and process them. We have a forums moderator team who, keeps our community discussion forum, on track and on topic and a nice place to participate on. We have the wiki, which, we have a team of folks that help folks manage that to learn how to use it. We have a team of administrators that runs Broadcastify, who approves feeds and manages feeds and, processes requests to change things and all that stuff. So we have a ton of volunteers, and, I've never lost sight of the fact that there are, a significant amount of folks out there that put in a lot of time and effort into the radio reference platform. And I've always, every year, set aside a portion of our profits to give some of that money back to our administration team in the form of bonuses. And that's typically about $40,000 or $50,000 a year that we pay back to our administration team. Believe it or not, we have some administrators that spend hours every day on the site. I mean, they do. That's they love it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, it's just a place for them to hang out. And so, it's a really kind of and so we certainly appreciate all their hard work and effort. And we always, try to give back to the community as much as possible. So.
Well, shout out to all those guys.
Yeah,
Josh.
definitely.
Josh comes up. He said that he understands that Unication's about to release an update to their programming software that includes radio reference database import. That'll be interesting. Yep. I've got a G5, and it's a great radio.
I do too. It's a great little radio. So, yep, I'm aware of that. Super excited about the development of that. I can't wait to see it in action. Yeah, that's pretty exciting news. So that's just a really neat little radio that's made its way into our communities over the past few years. And, I bought one. I saw Dale Osborne. When is Lindsay moving to Montana to stay?
That was the next comment I was going to post, because we know that you frequent Montana, and I really some of the GoPro cam video that you shot, skiing is super awesome. I mean, it looks so beautiful out there.
Yeah.
So I own a second home in Whitefish, Montana, which, believe it or not, is a huge rail fanning place. We have a nice BNSF train yard right there in Whitefish. But I'm definitely our family splits time between Montana and here in San Antonio, Texas, where I am now. As I have teenage kids who will be graduating from college in the next three. My daughter will be a senior next year, so I'll be retiring out in Montana for sure. So there's your answer, Dale. I mean, when the pandemic hit in March, we as soon as the kids were out of school, we just left early, and we spent all of March, April, May, June, and July, and in Montana. So it's a great place. Love it up there.
Yeah.
Beautiful area. So
Yeah, I would love to be up in that area, but the wife doesn't like the snow. So that's why we're in Phoenix.
Yep. I mean, I own a lot of property out there, and I have a place up on the ski resort there. So as you probably saw, our family loves to ski, and I'll end up building my retirement home out there in Whitefish in the next few years, and that's where we'll continue to run Radio Reference and Broadcastify and all the other good stuff coming down the pipe from. So.
Cool. Well, that sounds like it'd be a lot of fun. It's beautiful country up there, so I like it.
It just got me thinking. When we take our Train Aficionado show on the road, we should definitely, you and Rich, we should go out to Whitefish. We'll visit you.
Yeah.
Well, there's a great. I mean, it's a great area for train spotting. I mean, I fly fish out there in Montana on the Flathead River, which runs right next to the rails. So we get the trains that just come by. It's really cool. So I've got a lot of great video and all that from that. It's pretty neat. So
that's super cool.
There was a mention, we mentioned earlier about the alerting service. There was a question about that, so somebody kind of brought that up. But there is I can't remember the name of it. Whistler. With the do you remember that the TRX 100, TRX 200 announcement that they made a while back?
Which announcement?
They made an announcement. What is it, about a year and a half ago? It was announcing the TRX 100 and 200.
It was basically going to be the equivalent of the STS 100 and 200 on their product line.
Right.
And where were you trying to go with that, Rich?
Well, I was just, even though I'm a Uniden guy, probably, more familiarity, I would love to be able to see other scanner manufacturers come up with good products like that was supposed to be, and to work against each other. Because competition makes everybody better.
Yeah.
Is there any competition for Radio Reference that you're aware
of? Oh no, there's not. We don't have any competitors. As Warren Buffett likes to say, he really likes businesses that have big moats around them, and those are the businesses that he invests in. And that's how I build Radio Reference and Broadcastify. We don't have any competition. So I'm always looking over my shoulder, and we're always innovating and rolling out new features and functionality. And we have a lot more greenfield and a lot more really neat things that we're going to be doing over the next few years. I don't have a 1 week vision for Radio Reference and Broadcastify. I have a 2-year plan where I think very strategically about how we're going to execute on certain things. Broadcastify calls, was a critical component of that this year. That was one of our major goals, and I'm really excited to see how that's taken off. I mean, you're going to see over the next year that's going to revolutionize what we're doing. I mean, the ability to go and our database. A good example is our database administration team can go and look at an unidentified talk group on a trunking system and go back and play every call over the past 30 days to see what was transpired on that, and use that to identify what its use is, to correlate radio IDs to other talk groups or to agencies. Those are just some examples of that. Folks can set up playlists and scan lists of what they want to listen. And that might be something like, I want to listen to the Los Angeles City Fire Department dispatch and the City of Chicago's fire tactical channels. And I want to hear Miami's EMS dispatch all in one interface. That's what I want to listen to. So, we've just got amazing coverage right now already, and it's growing significantly. And you're going to see a lot more coming from that. So
we had a couple different comments that kind of go into the same thing here. Are there agencies that have official feeds on Broadcastify that otherwise are encrypted?
yes,
Their radio channels are encrypted, but they do an unencrypted feed on Radio Reference?
there are. So we provide the ability for agencies that broadcast to us. They're allowed to delay their feeds if they want to. And we do have a few who are encrypted who broadcast to us. I don't know who they are off the top of my head. I know I've worked with, their public information office teams to get those online. So the answer is yes. And I've seen a lot over the past 6 months, a lot of interest in that from different departments who have gone encrypted but still want to stay plugged into the to their constituents in the community. So I think you'll see a lot of that over the next next year. I mean, it depends. As everybody knows, in the United States, every department's different. I mean, you can have one agency that wants to be on Broadcastify, and the agency right next door might have a different set of leadership that says absolutely not. So it is what it is. That's fine.
Yeah, the town I worked on, we had 5 towns on the same network, little suburbs, and one of us would have loved to have been on Broadcastify, but the other 4 towns.
Yep, that's right.
Well, that's I've been trying to convince the police chief, the town that I live in, to do a delayed fee on Broadcastify as an alternative, but he hasn't bid on that yet. Joe asks 9 minutes after, regarding Broadcastify calls, are you planning any type of an easy-to-build streaming device similar to what FlightAware has for like a Raspberry Pi feeder type of thing?
We do. Right here on my development workbench here to my left, I have a device in development that has a AirSpy Mini connected to a Raspberry Pi, connected to a GPS receiver that we have in development that somebody could deploy, and we could provide it with tasks on what we want it to monitor. So we could have it fill in gaps for a certain area based on its location. We could have it, monitor a system based on its location, or a number of different systems. So the answer is yes, Joe. We're actively developing something like that. Either that you could buy as a package as a whole, or you could put it together yourself and download an image. So that's coming. Cool. Be patient with us.
Cool. Another question. Any word on Don Starr?
I haven't heard from Don in years. So
yeah, that's
I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of people are concerned because they haven't heard from him. They're just hoping he's okay.
Yeah.
For those who aren't familiar with Don Starr, he writes a software called StarSoft, and he's written several different programming software packages for various scanners, and got some good stuff. So we hope, Don, if you're watching, I hope everything's good with you.
Yeah, I haven't heard from him in years, so I'm sorry.
Yeah. Josh said he wished Unication would make a dedicated scanner. I do understand, I've read it in some of the forums, that Unication is coming up with new firmware anyway to allow more scanner-type features on their receivers. And we used to deal with the Unications quite a bit, but since the SDS came out, that kind of went on the wayside. But that was a product, a good example of a product that was subverted for totally different use than what it was created for. Sure. And it really turned out well for everybody.
Yeah.
Yep. It's great. It's a neat little radio. I love it.
Yeah. And the biggest drawback on that was that you couldn't change anything in the field. And it was, it was a program at home and then take it with you type of thing. And now it looks like maybe there might be something else. So that would be great. And again, the success of that will hopefully, spur some of these other manufacturers to make things better.
So,
Right.
looks like Gene's got a question here about will there ever be any integration with Alexa, with Broadcastify?
It's a good question. So I've investigated it quite a bit. Part of the problem is how much money and development time that we would put into it for what we would get back out of it. We've looked at it. We dipped our toe in the water with the other device market with the Apple TV. We hired a company to develop a Broadcastify app for the Apple TV. We had a loud contingent of folks that told us that you got to get it, you got to do it. The new Apple TV allows apps, and so we spent the money, and we didn't see near the return on our investment for that. And so right now that's on hold. I have a number of those different devices in my office. I have an Amazon device. I have a Google device on my desk that I use to watch TV. We're looking at it, but we do not have anything in the pipe right now. So I think the reason why my response is that, and why we're at that approach is if we spend a couple $1,000s to have 50 people download it, it's not worth it to us. And that's just a reality. So the vast majority of folks listen to Broadcastify feeds on their mobile devices. And I would tell you that the addressable market for the smart speakers at home would probably be pretty small. So
yeah, well, I was very surprised.
Doesn't mean we're not going to do it. Yeah, it doesn't mean we're not going to do it. But at the same time, we thought maybe at the beginning of this year we would put together a project to make that happen. But I don't know. It's also kind of a difficult. It's kind of a difficult thing for us to implement on those smart speakers anyway. So it's. We'd have to, which feed are you going to play? And it's architecturally, it's a little bit more difficult than it seems. So that's where we're at.
Well, I was very surprised to see the Apple TV app come out. And as an Apple TV user, I was like, okay. I could see an iOS device or something like that, but I was very surprised to see the Apple TV. I couldn't figure it. Of course, then again, I'm the guy who thought the Home Patrol was a stupid idea at first. So it tells you what kind of prescience I have going on here.
Yeah.
So, well, we do have a lot of our regulars checking in, and say a big shout out to everybody who has checked in. If you got any questions for any of the three of us here, now's the time. And let us know and put them in the comments, and we'll be glad to go with them. Juan asks if there's any updates on the implementation of the new San Antonio system to replace the.
I don't know anything.
ProVoice.
We've got. I don't know anything personally on the status other than what's been posted in the forums. With the implementation plan with the FCC and all that. So
they don't know.
We've got. They don't. They don't. I might have irritated them a little bit when I, filed an open records request about, almost 20 years ago, and it was pretty fascinating. When they put in their brand new, what is now their ProVoice EDAC system, and that was a big, implementation. I filed open records requests to get more details on it, and I spent a lot of time negotiating with the San Antonio city attorney on it, and they kicked stuff up to the Texas, attorney general to exempt certain stuff, and it was a real mess. It was kind of funny because a funny story there. They spent all this time and effort writing briefs and stuff to the attorney general, and they called me a terrorist, and or a potential terrorist, and all this other stuff, and it went to Greg Abbott, who's our governor now, and he ruled against me. But then they turned over everything to me anyway, accidentally. So,
congratulations on that one.
I paid the, whatever, a couple $100 for reproduction fees, and they turned over all these boxes of stuff, and they gave me everything that I asked for anyway. So it was, it was kind of funny, but anyway, I don't have any updates. We have one or two individuals here in the San Antonio area who are intensely focused on stuff that happens around here, and so I guarantee you that they'll know about it, and stuff will know about it in the forums. So I see
That's
a question that popped up.
For that.
Yeah, no, yeah, they'll be on it. I see a question popped up here from Christopher Ritchie about if we have any agreements with Live ATC. We don't. I have attempted to partner with the owner over at Live ATC many times. He's not interested. So, I'd rather compete against him, and I think we have a better product anyway, but he's got a great niche platform there for Live ATC, and it works well. We got a number of great Live ATC feeds on Broadcastify. In fact, I just talked to the CEO of Live ATC 2 days ago on a legal issue. But yeah, we don't have anything in place. He's very focused on doing his own thing and not partnering, and that's fine.
Sure.
I mean, that's,
Well, Jonathan and I are huge fans of Virtual Railfan and Railstream.
I was literally thinking the same thing. Oh my God.
We spend too much time talking to each other. We radiate thoughts back and forth. But I've often, and Jonathan's often thought that it would be ideal to have the scanner feed tie in with the video feed. And I've broached that with Virtual Railfan and Railstream, and neither one seemed to be interested in that. But I just think that would be a fantastic extension to the feed to be able to listen to the scanner traffic. And I just wish that they would bite on that.
It wouldn't be my bread and butter. I'm sure. I mean, if you could integrate Broadcastify feeds into something like that, it'd be a great little, great.
Well, here's what you do: you buy Virtual Railfan, and then Jonathan and I will run it for you. We'll put scanners at all the sites.
We're doing a business negotiation right here.
I'll
give it some consideration.
Okay, no, that's good.
Yeah, there you go. What a great punt. Yeah, you didn't play football for the Tigers, did you? Could have been the punter. Will asks if you've ever had your Broadcastify record subpoenaed for a court hearing.
Yes, I have. I've a number of times. Yeah, I mean, the answer is yes. We get subpoenaed all the time for all kinds of stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, I imagine you would.
Cases.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've been subpoenaed for personal court cases. We've been subpoenaed for, public court cases. I deal with officials all the time. So, I mean, we don't ever release any of our data or information without a subpoena or a court order. So,
yeah, and that's the way it should be. So, and then the other question that we get asked a lot is, how come my local town doesn't have a feed on Broadcastify, but the neighboring town does? Well, then put up a feed and set it to Broadcastify, and they'll put it up there.
The answer is that about 90% of our feeds are provided by volunteers who take the time and effort to hook up a radio to their computer and broadcast to us. So, we're just a platform for those folks to broadcast. Feeds come and go all the time. We have a turnover of about 20 feeds a day on the site. So, every morning I get up and approve 20 new feeds, and 19 go away and never come back. So it's just, it's a platform for entertainment purposes. We have we've got a lot of folks that, use our feeds for very critical purposes, and, they get upset when some of them go away, but there's, that's But I mean, we just this summer we eclipsed 7,000 feeds. So it's pretty impressive. I mean, there's a lot there isn't much that's not covered by us.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And most of the good stuff is in there too. So,
yeah.
And Gene asked the question of what determines what frequencies get into the radio reference database. And that's pretty straightforward. It has to follow certain guidelines, and the submission has to be worked by one of the editors. But basically, almost any frequency that's verified can be in the database, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, we just rely on users to send us identified information, and our administration team is skilled and experienced in understanding where it goes and how it gets put into our database through a set of procedures and guidelines that they follow. So,
yeah. Dale follows up for your for Intel. Apparently, the Flathead Valley 700 megahertz is on the way. So be prepared in the Montana area.
You and Dale's in Montana, right? So yeah, you guys could almost be neighbors.
Yeah, maybe. Pretty spread out. Flathead County, I think, is the third largest county in the country. So, you can drive for 2.5 hours and still be in that county. So,
oh my word!
Yeah.
It sounds like
it's a huge county with 17 people in it. Yeah.
It's got 100,000 residents. So.
Oh, cool.
But it's pretty spread out. So. Yeah.
Isn't that where the Unabomber was hiding out?
Unabomber was, I believe, in Lincoln, which is a little bit, few hours away, not too far away, but.
Would Joe asked at 23 after, would Radio Reference endorse a sunshine law that would prohibit encryption on dispatch channels? Weren't they talking about that in Colorado? There was a proposal.
Yeah, there was a state legislature in Colorado that proposed something like that. Yeah, certainly we'd endorse something like that. It's difficult. It's tough. It's not something that could be done on a national level. So it would have to be done at every state level. And, I don't have the cycles to dedicate to that right now for all 50 states. But, certainly, I think you'd be surprised at how often and how hard the media actually leads that charge a lot. So.
Chris asked about the name of the software that's used at the remote station that's connected to the scanner. There's a couple different software packages. Almost anything that does support like virtual control, like Arc 536 Pro or ProScan, etc., would work on that. But are there any others that you know of that would support remote monitoring?
No, I mean, that's, there's tons of them out there. So.
Okay. And let's see here. Looks like Lincoln is in Lewis and Clark County. Okay. That was our Unabomber friend. I was.
I'll tell that. Jeez.
We had a guy at work who used to wear hoodie and sunglasses, and he looked just like the Unabomber.
Yeah.
During that thing, and so we always called him Dan the Unabomber. So
they
look just like the guy. Any development on the backside of Broadcastify to check feeds automatically for not following the terms of service, like TAC channels and such?
Yeah, I don't know how that technically would be done. Yeah, I mean, I'm not aware of a technology solution that's going to be able to review audio content and make that determination. We rely on the community to notify us when we have violations, and we handle them efficiently and appropriately.
And internally,
most of public safety out there is pretty familiar with the Broadcastify platform, though, and they're also familiar with our terms of service, and so they'll notify us pretty quickly. And we have to we have to deal with it occasionally. So, I mean, it's it's a community platform. We run into cases where people don't follow the rules sometimes, and we take care of it. So
cool. Well, Jonathan, you got anything else?
Well, we covered a lot tonight. I really think, when you implement more of the new things to the website, we should definitely have you on again.
Right.
We actually have ability so you could do a screen share on
Right.
your end of things where you can kind of show us the new features. So I would totally love to have you back on. I mean, this was really cool. I mean, you were on when we started doing these broadcasts back in March of 2019. Rich and I compiled a list of people we wanted to interview, and you were right at the top of the list, along with Paul Obitz. I mean, Rich and I were just joking about this. A lot of the news stations would have a discussion panel during their nightly shows, and it would have been awesome having you and Paul and Rich Barnett, and then a Whistler representative, all on a panel, because we could do it in this platform be able to talk about so many various things. And
and it would be informative, not the fluff that you're going to get on CNN.
Fluffy.
Yeah.
There's a certain party we call fluffy, but we'll leave that for off air.
There are things that we have to incorporate in every show,
Yes, and the word fluff is one of them. But yeah, I was looking forward to this. Rich and I, we just started doing interviews, and when we sent you that request to do the interview with us, and you said sure, I'm like, all right, well, we just scored the big one right here.
Well, thanks for having me on the show. I mean, I want to thank everybody out there for the great questions. Really appreciate it. Really excited about what we got coming on in the next few months, and I think you'll see a lot of really great things starting in the first quarter of 2021. I know I'm looking forward to next year. This has been a wild year. So
get 2020 over with.
Yeah, me too. This has been one heck of a year. What we're going to have you do is we're just going to just do some closing slides. I'm going to have you hang in there just so we can talk to you for a few minutes before we, after we sign off. So let me just line up some of the slides here. Hold on one second. I'll keep us on the screen as well. So next week, we're going to be talking about classic scanners. So this is a favorite show of everyone's, because we get to take a look at photographs of those classic scanners. Of course, we'll be back on Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, right here on the channel. If you're watching us right now, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Do it right now so you can be notified with any upcoming shows. And on the Train Aficionado live show, this is our spin-off from the Scanner Guys, the first Monday night of each month, the day before Election Day, November the 2nd, Monday night, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time. We'll be live talking about scanners, and not scanners. I got scanners in the brain. We're going to be talking about trains and movies. When we see a lot of trains, that have taken the spotlight in movies. So Rich and I will be talking about that during our Train Aficionado show. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on that channel as well. And make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to all the Train Aficionado social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course YouTube. And then make sure you follow Train Aficionado's blog at trainaficionado.com. And then we can't forget, follow, like, and subscribe to Scanner Master, our sponsor of tonight's show and each one of our Scanner Guys show on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And of course, the Scanner Guys social media on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And we just want to thank you so much for joining us this evening. This was a blast being able to have you on. We would love to have you on again to be able to show off some of the new features that are coming to Radio Reference and Broadcastify. I think it'd be phenomenal. As we've seen in the comments, it's just been praised left and right for everything that you've done to be able to not only give us a database that can be reachable in so many different ways, just having forums where other people that totally enjoy our hobby can communicate with one another, can join together. I mean, in this hobby, it's quite a niche thing. So to be able to have a place, where we can virtually meet in the forums and share information is phenomenal.
Yeah. Thanks again
I
for
agree.
coming in. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, Jonathan, Rich, great job on your show. I really enjoyed being here today, and thanks for having me. I appreciate it. So look forward to sharing more details with you guys as we go forward. So,
all right.
Fantastic.
So I'm Jonathan Higgins.
I'm Rich Carlson.
And
you are
Lindsay Blanton.
I'm Lindsay Blanton.
All right. We'll catch you again next week right here on the Scanner Guys. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.